Good morning and welcome. It's Lent and East and Ramadan at the same time. I can't ask you if you have taken your cocoa or cocoa this morning because we're supposed to be, right? I'm Ayo Makinde, good morning and welcome.
I'm Alera, good morning.
I mean, isn't it fair to ask?
Yeah, well, Ramadan people have had their breakfast this morning, so they would have had their cocoa.
Okay. And the Lenten people?
No, today is Saturday. Well, do people normally fast? Yeah, they say only Sunday is excluded.
Okay,
so they don't eat early in the morning. They will have their
cocoa later in the day.
In the evening,
But how do
yes.
you know that the Ramadan people are not using cocoa?
That is also a possibility.
And
either cocoa or
cocoa. And the Passion Week is close.
Yes, it starts on Monday. Yes. Holy Week, yes.
So should I be the one reminding you now?
No.
Should I report you to your vicar?
Well, I'm sure the vicar is listening. I'm sure he's listening already and he's going to accost me tomorrow.
Well, something else that needs accosting is this power outage issue. The last time we heard it was grid collapse. Now you said it was something else?
System collapse.
What's the difference,
please? But I can't even decipher the difference because it looked like yesterday again, even if up until now, I hear that power is just coming gradually to some areas. So from yesterday evening, there was no power anywhere.
Okay. I don't know. I believe that I've often contended that, government is working. It's just that if you are doing something and people can't see it, it's almost equal to you're not doing anything.
You're winking in the dark.
Exactly. So putting the information out there is very important so people know. And one of the ways in which governments over the years addressed that issue was to ensure that they told people ahead of time, okay, there's going to be power outage. In where I live, for instance, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, we were told that there's going to be a little bit of power outage within X hour and X hour. And that because they wanted to do some maintenance work and all. So if people know, they can prepare themselves for it. But in a situation where people don't know and then all of a sudden there's power outage in their faces.
The one in your estate was a planned maintenance exercise.
Yeah.
This one is system collapse. It doesn't give you notice. It just packs up on you. So you don't even, you didn't even know it was coming, let alone having time to tell your subscribers.
And we need to get ahead of this. From one report that I saw, I think it was...
It's happening a bit too often now.
Some report said over the past 10 years, we've had 200 grid collapses.
Why don't we just break this thing into pieces? Just decentralize it. Why must we have a national grid?
Let's hope that this constitutional amendment thing is also, going to address that among several other things, because you remember Lagos State wanted to do that at some point. And the federal government at the time kicked against it, and also. I hope that has been addressed now.
So if Ayo wants to supply power to Ikate in Surulere alone, he should be able to supply power to just that little Ikate, so that if there's no power, they know that they're going to hold Ayo responsible.
Or they have options. You can always go from one electricity company to another electricity company.
Oh, high five.
We can touch now, so...
High five. High five.
I mean, it should be that easy.
Why must I be stuck with Eko Disco or Ikeja Disco?
Or Kaduna Disco.
For that matter. If I shop around, I might decide that Kaduna Disco is more beneficial to me, and why can't I use them? Why must I stick with this national grid which makes me join at the hips to a particular disco company?
And then there is the Gencos issue, and then there's the Transco issues, and also
the issue of NEPA. I keep wondering, when are we going to get it right?
I thought the issue of NEPA was history.
And I remember in 1999, when I was going to buy my first generator, And Bola Ige said to us, oh, the issue of power will be sorted out in a matter of months. And I sat down and had a discussion with myself. Well, the matter will soon be sorted, so you don't need to buy a generator. Just be patient. Well, this is 22 years later. The matter is still not sorted.
Well, it's still a matter of months.
It is
Way you like it.
work in progress. 22 years on, it is still work in progress.
Another work in progress is the RAMFAC issue, Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Have a new proposal.
Yes, I wasn't paying attention, but I heard something about it yesterday. You know, something to the effect that the states were going to get more than the federal.
So, no, well,
which makes
not
more
really.
sense to most of us.
Not really. So
okay,
the new
really.
proposal
okay,
says the sharing formula is going to now be 45.17% to the federal government, 29.79% for state governments, and 21.04% to local governments. Hitherto, it was 51 or 52% to the federal government.
If the local government one gets to them.
Oh, it will, hopefully, with these new constitutional arrangements being proposed.
So it'll go directly into the local government.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing saying that the states can't still go and stand over them with the whip and say, give that money to me.
I guess we will see. Because if the local governments are truly independent and an Alero political party is in charge, and then for whatever reason, a Tony Progressive Party is in charge in the same state, and the state government is governed by an Alliance for People's Progress, you know, or something. They have different, so it'll be difficult for that Alliance for People's Progress to go talk to Alero political party and say, bring the money.
True, true.
So let's hope that we get there.
True. And that means, of course, local governments are going to be more accountable.
Which is, and not just the accountability.
With privilege comes responsibility.
Exactly. Because I remember, you would remember also, the Third Republic. I remember it with joy that the Lagos Island local government at the time had their own economy, a buoyant economy. Yeah. So that they had this, what they call the gold service, that had it was a transportation system between Ikeja and the island. It was gold service, first air-conditioned transportation system in Lagos that I remember at the time. And of course, I still see the gold service buses today, but it's anything but gold.
And please, local governments, please, can you just pay attention to water? Water. I mean, when I was growing up in Lagos, I remember there were public taps, and the water was clear as crystal. And as, you know, primary school children, we could go to those taps and actually put our hands under the taps like this and drink the water.
And we had no fears of
nothing.
Any form of poisoning or anything.
In fact, these days, they don't even exist. Where are the public taps? So, and how many households actually have taps? And I'm thinking about places like Agege and Oshodi and central Lagos.
And Sabongiri and the rest of them.
Other places all over the country. How many of them actually have taps? They go to the stream to fetch water, which is...
You remember...
I don't even want to start describing the color of the water, you know?
Well, for those who know, they are as concerned. I hope they are as concerned. Now, unfortunately, many of them cannot watch TV right now to tell us, you know, what they're going through. But you may have people who have these experiences and may want to share on their behalf. Because I remember seeing a report from Bauchi State. The color of the water was, no, if you had color, it was brown. That's just to put it mildly. Light brown. And it was brown. So, and they literally scraped water from the ground.
Mud and all.
They scraped the water. No, and the World Water Day was a few weeks ago, and one of the focus was to protect groundwater. All over the place, all over Nigeria now, we have liters of... and I don't mean liters in terms of quantity. The boreholes litter the entire landscape. And some of them are even championed by local governments, some by state governments, and also I'm wondering if there is a system of ensuring that those things are put right so that people don't just, pour, what's the word now? Dig boreholes willy-nilly. Because
Well,
that is one of the concerns of the World Water Day.
there was talk some time ago about Lagos State actually wanting to regulate the sinking of boreholes because they say there are too many of them and they're going to tamper with the ecosystem and all that.
Well, Lagos State government has a genuine concern because, Lagos is one of the lowest.
Well, Ayo, if the state is not supplying water, what should the people do?
Well, I guess that's one of the reasons they got the job, to get the job done, And talking about people looking for water and all, a good number of people in the catchment that are caught are destitutes and homeless people. You remember that? Okay, I think it was a day you were away that we had this conversation with a young lady who was housing some homeless children and destitutes and all. Thankfully, we hosted her and she talked about the challenges that they were having. She was homeless and she knew how it felt, so she decided to be picking people up. Of course, it was something that I think along the line she got advised that, look, you need to register this so that you are not working against government. And let me just hope that, that process has begun, because she says she has registered, I think, with the CAC, but Lagos State government needs that registration as well in order to be able to give her all the recognition and all that she needs.
Okay.
So let's hope that that is the process, because from what I gathered, they may be visiting her on Monday, and she's expected to return the children to where she picked them from.
No.
And the question I'm asking is, she said she picked them from the streets.
So return them to the streets?
So where do we return them from? That is insecurity waiting to happen. At least that's the way it came to me. So let's just hope that it's been addressed.
Well, I guess that you had information as to if anybody wanted to help out, support her cause and all that.
Well, we put out the message at the time. I think it was her phone number that was put out.
Okay.
Let's just, we hope to do a report on that soon and hope that we'll be able to address the issue, at least to ensure that the needful is done. Because I think she's about 40 children, and I don't even know where to begin, because one of the reasons we feel that the topic was maybe get the attention of the Lagos State government. She said she'd been trying to get that attention, but she hadn't gotten it. So let's hope that we'll be able to get the attention of the Lagos State government so that we can prevent this evil waiting to happen, because children on the streets is definitely danger waiting to happen.
Yeah. All right, then. So we're going to start today's program by looking at the leadership question.
Again, an extremely important issue to raise, if you ask me. And then we will go to a look at national forest policy.
And then we're going to look at Max International. What do they do?
Well, Max sounds like a short form of maximum. If that is it, I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
And then the Earth Woman. Who is that?
Well, Obunyayi.
No.
And we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment, as usual.
He or she or a shim?
It's a he.
It's a he.
It's a very, very popular he, too.
Artists of the Week are supposed to be popular.
Well, sometimes they're up and coming.
This one is not up and coming.
Not at all. It's very dear.
So we'll begin with the look at the leadership question when we return. After now, please stay with us.
A good woman coming from the Lord. They know they see her for market. A good woman is a blessing from above. Her type will not there for market. I show you more, Yaku. One year batrako, Lisa Silva. Yanu more, Dosiaku. One year batrako, Dosiaku. Always loving everybody, no discrimination. What I did, no competition. Come and see the blessings of the Lord. If you want your maka, I don't you wanna also. She put her trust in God.
Well, the 2023 election is slowly approaching, and every politician is declaring intention to occupy one political position or another. We talked about the Alero political party the other time. While insecurity, poor economy is the order of the day, the question remains, who is the right leader fit for Nigeria to be a better country? And most of the time when we talk about the leadership question, we're talking only about the federal government, we're talking about the presidents. However, maybe we should actually decrypt it all this morning. Who is the leader we need at the federal level,
At the state
the
level,
state level,
the
the local government level, at the executive level, the legislature, and the judiciary. This morning we have two gentlemen joining us to have this conversation. Dr. John Ekundayo is a leadership development consultant and organizational strategist. He joins us here in the studio. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
As well as Professor Vincent Anibogo, who is Director General, International Institute of National Transformation. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you this morning, Prof, for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Ayer.
Okay, so here we are. You both have been here before, so let's take it a little further. Let me begin with you, Prof, this morning. Do we even understand when we talk about leadership, excuse me, in our country, is there a dynamic that people need to understand? Now, you forgive me for maybe digging a little bit into the past. We've had leadership structures over the years. Pre-colonial, colonial, we began with democracy, then we went unitary with the military, and then back to democracy, and here we are. So do you even think that we understand in our nation what we would call the dynamics of leadership for especially the average Nigerian?
Well, Mr. Ayer, again, thank you for inviting me. I don't think we do. And that in itself is not necessarily a disadvantage. I go back to my common reference, and that is Kuan Yew. Kuan Yew of Singapore, when they took over office, he said, we didn't even know what to do or how to get to where we wanted to get. But we had a desire to create a fair and a just society. That was our passion. That's what we wanted to achieve. But how to get there, we did not know. But they were open to learn. As long as the desire is correct, as long as the intent is correct, you will always find a way. The issue is that I'm not sure our leaders understand what to do beyond independence. What does it take to craft a nation? What does it take to build a viable nation? What is the role of infrastructure? What is the role of education? And what is the role of governance? All those roles must be clear. If you don't know, then you go and learn. What Lee Kuan Yew did, he went to various institutions to learn. Sometimes he would take a sabbatical to go and learn because he has reached a dead end. So you don't necessarily have to know to start the journey, but you must be open-minded. You must be willing to learn along the way. And I think that's where we have struggled. Once we test power, and we have been told that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And once you're trapped in the drunkenness of power, you lose the flexibility of mind to keep learning and keep growing. And of course, we have ended up where we are today. That would be my initial comment, Mr.
Well,
Ayo.
Prof, it sounds to me like you're saying that our leadership challenge is historical.
Is what?
It's historical. Is that what you're saying? That our challenge with leadership is historical?
I think so. I think I have had people use this word, that there's a difference between founding fathers and liberating fathers. You can liberate somebody from slavery, but that doesn't mean you have the knowledge to take them to development and achieving and attaining the highest level that they can. Many of our fathers had the talent to liberate us from Britain, from the bondage of enslavement by the colonial masters. But I'm not sure they understood the journey. And the journey is very simple. When you deliver people, the first thing you need to do is to disciple them, build character in them. Once you have built character in them, then you put purpose in them. And when you put purpose, you now teach them how to excel. But when you liberate people and you just leave them to roam around, no quality discipleship to mature them, no intention to bring them to purpose, to an understanding of their uniqueness, no intention to empower them so that they can excel, then you just leave them in an island of idleness, in an island of purposelessness, in an island of lack of direction, and that's what you see. We are free, but we are not really free. We have been liberated from externally imposed slavery, but we are now being dragged into another form of slavery, and that is the slavery of ignorance, the slavery of lack of understanding, the slavery of not even knowing who we are. And I'm not sure which is worse, the externally imposed slavery or the internally driven slavery.
Dr. Kuan Yew, Prof said that, well, the example he gave, the person didn't know and took time off on occasions to go and learn. It seems like in our country, everybody just thinks they can lead. Everybody just thinks they can wake up today and say, oh, I want to be president tomorrow, without having gone through any kind of training. And from what Prof has said, this thing requires training. And it's not just training now, consistent training.
I quite support that. You know, in Harvard, one of the things that you know, we were taught is that in the past, there's the great man leadership theory that, you know, was generally believed by leadership scholars, that you emerge, you are born a leader, and so you are a leader. But then, over time, it has been learned that it has been discovered, rather, that leadership can be learned. People are not just born with leadership traits. Leadership traits could also be learned, like the example Prof gave about Kuan Yew, you know, that he had to learn, and even you unlearn some things. And then before I stop on that, I remember this Prof was saying that, thinking about the U.S. military, people just think, oh, U.S. military, you have great generals, and they are succeeding one another. What actually made it to be so? Because they go through school, they go through courses, they learn. They were not just learning theoretically, practically on the field, you know, going for drills and so on. And then while some generals are retiring, others are taking over, and they are learning the ropes. And that's what we find in leadership in Singapore and Malaysia. I was 4 years in Singapore. I resided there. I schooled there. And then I moved on to Malaysia. Actually, I even want to give the example of Malaysia, because Singapore may be too narrow because of the kind of the democracy they operate. But in Malaysia, you see that you don't just see a prime minister emerging anyhow. That prime minister, Antelero and Ayo, must have been a minister of education or health or defense or internal affairs, foreign affairs, not just one ministry, about 2 or 3. Go and look at the antecedent. You see, like that. You see, so by the time a time will now come, he will become deputy prime minister. And if he's able to learn 3, 4, 5, 6 years, no skeleton in his cupboard, by their own system, that's their own system, automatically you will find out in about 2 cases like that, it didn't work out. But so in most cases,
they rode on institutional memory.
They rode on, yes, and you can see it, learning from the system, gleaning from the system. Okay. So that, it's not just a novice coming into the system and then it's not a team player. He doesn't even know how to even bring people together. He doesn't know how to actually lead.
There's something Prof also said that I would like you to speak to, and it's one of those things that you've also often talked about, followership. Prof talked about the fact that, okay, so leaders emerge and you expect that the people will just take what you're saying automatically. No process of learning, of indoctrinating people, no process of telling the people anything. So you just expect that people just get into the system and they go ahead and do the things that they want to do. So it speaks to the issue of followership that you've raised a number of times when you come here. So how does that come in this whole dynamic? Is it the people's fault?
Likely, I would say, it's the people's fault. I remember Professor Chinua Achebe wrote a book. That's part of, I did my research on that, why writing about followership. That Nigeria problem is simply and squarely put, leadership. But I contested that. Why? Because under the military, yes, likely yes. But under the civilian administration, democracy we have been practicing for about 23 years now, the fault lies squarely with the followers. Now, we're approaching an election year again. People will say, because of poverty, because of hunger, because of this. The mere fact that we're having accidental governors, I've said it before, and I'm saying it again, and we're having accidental president, is the fault of we, mostly elites, who are followers, who will not care about who is there, but rather what happened after. And that's where we are now. They will come and package people for us. I was just reading in the news this week, Ayo. Can you just imagine the present chairman of APC saying that a month to this time, I was reading it this week, a month to this time, he was not even sure whether it would be the chairman of APC, the ruling party in our country. Somebody saying that openly. That means this man was not prepared. That is the irony of the thing.
So he's an accidental leader.
He's an accidental leader, and we have so many of them that people will go to MENA, they will go to this and consult, and it's these people now that will say, who can even be president of Nigeria in the 21st century?
I would also like you to speak to something that Prof raised, and these are all issues that seem to have fused together. I'll come back to you, Prof, in a second, because the issues you raised are quite germane. He spoke about the fact that we should dichotomize founding fathers from liberating fathers. Now, he also said that, okay, the set of skills you need to liberate is different from the set of skills you need to continue post-liberation. Now, we are, what, 60 whatever years after that process now, 62 years in Nigeria's independence.
Yes.
And we're still talking about that?
Now, let me just say this. Prof was talking about founding fathers and talking about liberating fathers. Now, Kuan Yew was actually in the whole, before you have Malaya, which is now Malaysia. He was there in that government. And he saw leaders. Now, people will say Kuan Yew is a founding father of Singapore. Yes, for Singapore. But then there were some things he learned in Malaya, presently Malaysia, that when Singapore started and he was prime minister, he marched through the process. He was also, they thought he will also be part of them in corruption and the rest. But it takes somebody to have a decision. And that was what happened with Kuan Yew. Decision, discipline, a purpose, like what Prof said. There was a purpose. And he changed the uniform of the party to white. PAP, the party. People's Action Party, to white, which means no tolerance for corruption. That was where it started from. And he uses the example of his uncle as an example in corruption. But when he crossed the red line, the man was off. And everybody looked at it, oh, this man must be a madman. So everybody had to adjust. We need a kind of a leader that will set an example, and it will emerge from the followers.
Okay.
It will emerge.
Prof, so here is where we are. There are those who will say, why blame the victim when, I mean, it's the victim. The followers that we're talking about here, maybe we should focus on the people who are the followers a little further this morning. There are those who say, don't blame the victims. They're already victims of the system, and they've been victims for several decades down the line. So why blame them for the leadership challenge that we have? Can you hear me, Prof?
I don't know if you're hearing me.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
I'm not hearing.
We can hear you.
Okay. You know, this is your typical catch-22, the chicken and the egg, which came first. But we don't need to become caught up in that argument. There are three factors that determine the success of any individual. Number one is how much knowledge you have. Number two is your character. And number three is the environment you operate in. And studies have actually shown that environment is stronger than character and knowledge.
Wow.
You can have knowledge, you can have character, but once you are in the wrong environment, that environment will corrupt you. And that's why the scripture says, bad company corrupts good character. Bad company. So who is a leader? All of us can give an excuse and say we met an environment that is unconducive, therefore there's nothing we can do. But that's not true. A true leader is someone that has knowledge and character, encounters an environment that is detrimental either to him, his family, his organization. Now, instead of conforming to that environment, he decides to change it. A good leader changes the environment. Kuan Yew encountered a Singapore that was just as bad, even worse than Nigeria. You know, infiltrated by gangs. Poor people, all kinds of things, no foreign direct investment. Everything we are suffering from today, he encountered. But a leader took a decision and said, I'm going to change the environment. Leaders change environments from unconducive one to conducive one. So anyone that's giving you excuses means they lack the knowledge and the character to discipline their environment to conform to their standards. That also means that nations take after their leaders. If you are a disciplined leader and you insist on that discipline being exercised in your environment, people may fight you initially, but after a while, they will conform. But if you refuse to put your feet down, even you will begin to lose your discipline. Conversely, if you have a corrupt leader that lacks discipline, no knowledge, no standard, if you give them an excellent environment, they lack the ability to maintain that environment, so they will systematically dismantle everything that makes that society great, and they will bring that society to their level. Therefore, I totally agree that everything begins and ends with leadership.
Prof, that's my, sorry, Alero. Prof, you see, the question of the word leader sends a signal to me that there is a following towards a direction. One of the questions that I've asked so many times on this program is, can we have a leader without a national vision?
Well, leadership without vision is impossible, because leadership connotes that you are leading yourself and a group of people to a destination. And that destination is the destination where we are hoping to get to. Another word for hope is vision. Vision is a picture of the future that we desire to make real. Picture of the future that we desire to make real. So a leader must carry that picture and then influence us to follow him or her to arrive at that destination. Therefore, there cannot be effective leadership without clearly defined vision. Just as I said in the program last time, Nigeria already has a fairly defined vision, and that is to build a nation that's bound in freedom, peace, and unity, where nobody is despised, where everybody is given a fair chance based on meritocracy, not based on entitlement, because entitlement never produces excellence. So, but how do you get there? It requires skills. Skills, first of all, you have to have moral fortitude, because there are people that will fight you. Therefore, you must be morally strong and refuse to move. That's what Kuan Yew did. Zero tolerance for corruption. And when his brother tested him, of course, he dealt with him. Even his mother tested him and asked for favor. He denied his mother favor and told the mother, we have set up a system, go and join the line. This system will take care of you. Moral fortitude is a requirement for effective leadership. Number two, emotional strength, ability to withstand pressure and not be forced to do what you don't want to do, and be able to handle multiples of issues or move. You need to be emotionally strong. You need to be intellectually savvy. You need to understand how systems work, different systems, economic systems, education systems, and so on and so forth. You may not be an expert, but at least you should understand the basic principles so that you can make informed decisions. And of course, number four, you must have good social skills to work with people from different backgrounds, be able to relate with them. The people you connect to socially will treat you as one of their own. And finally, of course, you have to have good physical strength, because leadership is hard work. Those are the yardsticks, I think, by which Nigerians can evaluate all these different candidates. What is their moral strength? What is their ethical and moral foundation? What are the antecedents? What have they done in the past to show that they are people of ethical and moral strength? Emotional stability, you can evaluate that. Intellectual ability, you can evaluate that. And of course, social strength, how they have been able to work with other groups. And then we can also monitor their physical ability. If they can score average on every one of those, then I think you have a leader that may take Nigeria at least on the journey to total liberation and development.
Dr. Akundayo, all of this is because we are approaching an election year, 2023. And already people are beginning to come out, throwing their hats in the ring. At the risk of putting you on the spot,
On the spot.
you know where I'm going. What are your thoughts about those who have shown their hand already?
Well, the thing is, I look
By
at,
and large, do
by
they
and large,
have
I
these,
look-
these qualities that Prof is talking about?
Especially these qualities that Prof is talking about.
far, far from this, from the perspective of Prof on this.
Far.
Far, I would say that.
How far?
Because I could see, well, maybe a ray of hope in just few, not really many of them. But then, you see, we have an albatross in this nation. Ayo, and let me say this, an anti-alero. You see, our political system, I have said it, and I'm saying it again. You see, we may come up with academic, postulation. We may just come up with one thing or the other. But as it is run now, I have done that research, and I've looked at it from 1999 to date. You will see the president emerging from the two most popular parties. It could be MPN, UPN, it could be, what was the SDP, NRC. Now we have APC, PDP. By after May 29, you will see this happening. So we have this array of politicians. I mean, what can we do now? And we have to make a choice. Now, all the yardsticks, that Prof had rolled out, very good, excellent one. But when you rate all these people on this, well, people that will score average from there, I don't know, and I can't say here on the national TV now. But then,
maybe I should ask you. Maybe I should ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think our political arrangement, as presently structured, has space for the postulations that Prof has brought up?
Presently, no, because I will go back to followership. I'll go back to followers. It is time. Like, I will refer now to the hashtag NSAS that was done before. I'm still going there. You see, because, and I've written about it, you see, that will have been opportunity for the youth to come together as a group. All that gain was hijacked and went down the drain. And it paid me, because that would have been a kind of this thing for a movement of the youth, whereby they will have been able to, they may not even form a political party, but they could have formed group and say, okay, this is what we want. And then you will see the politician gravitating towards them.
Are you by any chance-
PDP,
Are you
negotiating with them.
Are you sure they're not working on it? Because I don't think that NSAS would just come and go like that. I don't believe it.
Let me say this. Now, we are entering almost into the election year. Primaries will take place in the next 2 months, 3 months. We will have primary. And that's where we decide where we are going. And I'm not seeing any strong youth movement or group now. I'm not seeing it. Because by now, they should have been up. We had the APC convention about almost 2 weeks ago. Well, I cannot say, because this is the area they're supposed to negotiate.
Are you by any chance agreeing with Professor Wole Soyinka that the youths are not ready to take?
I quite agree, largely agree with that, because, you see, the youth need to study our political system. It's not just talking about US, what happened in France, what is happening. So they need to study our political system. How can they come in? And that's what I'm telling you, Ayo. It is through negotiation. Lee Kuan Yew played himself into the system. Going back to what Prof was saying, playing himself into the system. He was pretending that I am also rolling coasting with you, I'm going along. But the man was already thinking, when I come in, I'm going to change everything. We need somebody like that to up with these people. Okay. But with the idea inside him, let me just get hold of this power.
I will change everything.
Yes. And we'll get there one day.
And change everyone. Prof, you said the other time that we have a national vision. I suspect that you are speaking to this second verse of the national anthem. It will come on your screen shortly. And that is it. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great lofty height attain to build a nation where peace and justice reign. I know that the shall has been removed. If this is what you are talking about, Prof, every vision would need a mission. And it would seem like someone will need to decrypt the process of achieving that last line. But it would seem like no one has been able to do that for us.
You know, I think it was about in 2007, I was speaking to a young man about the future of this nation. And I pointed him to that line in the national anthem, help our youth the truth to know, so that they may grow in love and in honesty. By so doing, they will attain great lofty heights. That line in our national anthem is emphasizing the importance of mentorship. Let me say this. For we adults to be blaming our youth when we have not yet sat down to mentor them in truth, in honesty. Actually, we have modeled lies to them. We have modeled deception to them.
Oh dear.
We have modeled hatred. We are teaching them hatred. We are doing the very opposite of what our national anthem commands us to do. To deny them that opportunity and to turn around and accuse them of being incompetent, quite frankly, is an excuse that's not acceptable among my generation. We have not mentored our youth. I have had the opportunity to visit our institutions, academic institutions, even the universities. There's very little mentorship taking place there. We just come and dump information on them. In many cases, we demand that they buy our handout. There's very little one-on-one showing them the steps, allowing them to shadow us so that they can be taught in the touchstone of reality. Very little of that is going on. So if we're going to give our youth a chance, we need to really begin to mentor them. We need to begin to teach them, spend quality time with them. Our leaders are acting as though once they die, leadership qualities would be transferred by osmosis to our children. No, leadership qualities are transmitted through mentorship, by bringing them closer, by sharing secrets with them. That attitude among adults is, quite frankly, is very disturbing. And that's why there's such a gap between the adult generation and the youth generation. I don't mind telling you, I'm spending 80% of my time nowadays mentoring youth, spending quality time with them. And I have found out that they are willing to learn if anybody is ready to teach them. If they are going to take over from us, we must be deliberate in mentoring them, in teaching them, to take them from a place of ignorance to a place of character maturity. And we have to demonstrate everything we teach. You can't lack character and talk about character. Then we have to tell them about purpose, so that they know that there's a purpose they are created to fulfill in their lives. And then teach them how to have influence. If we can do that, then there's hope for this nation. But unfortunately, many of us are so busy consolidating our positions. One day we will die, and there's no one to take over from us.
Now, staying with you, Prof, at the time that the Not Too Young to Run was assented to, there was plenty of celebration and all that. But we don't seem to be hearing much about that. What do you think has happened to it?
That statement should have been accompanied by the building of a special institution to build the skills of our youth. It's not just an empty statement. It needs to be backed up with systems to methodically mentor them, teach them, sieve out the best among them that have the talent. That's what we're supposed to have done. I'm glad to hear that recently NIPS in Jos, in Kuru, started a youth training program to begin to mentor the next generation. Before then, the people that usually end up in Kuru are people who are almost on their way out of government. That place should be primarily a place where young people between the age of 25 and 40 are mentored and prepared for leadership. So I'm beginning to see something good, but we need to take it lightly. We need to take development of future leaders very serious.
Doc, this is where we are, and we have little time for this segment. 2023 is not going to be paused. We are inching closer by the day. And when we get to this point of the conversation, we all usually talk about low-hanging fruits. But you see, we only want to solve the problem of today. But most certainly the future is not going to stop simply because we have challenges that we cannot deal with. People will make choices, most certainly. In fact, not making a choice is a choice. So it will sound like we are within the devil and the deep blue sea. Where do we go from here? What are your hopes or aspirations for the next dispensation in this fourth republic of Nigeria? And I'm not just talking about the president. I'm talking about governors. I'm talking about members of the Houses of Assembly, both national and state.
Ayo, my hope is that we will get it right. And I will still go back to the followers, of which I am one. And I want to appeal to the elites, the lawyers, the medical personnel, the teachers, those people there who are in the organized private sector. And the prof was talking about something, lest I forget, about mentoring. Now, government maybe is trying to do something, backing up the, like what Auntie Alero said about the not too young to run, okay, training the youth. How about the organized private sector? I'm calling on the, Dangotes of this world, or $10 of this world, Elumelus of this world. You see, Elumelu have been doing a great thing, foundation, in the entrepreneur. Now it's time to begin to harvest those youth. Lee Kuan Yew, before he died, made sure that there are certain schools that are for future leaders of Singapore. When he spotted bright students, gather them together in such school to train them. Mentoring is very important. Now, somebody said something to my WhatsApp group this morning, and I like to share because it really ministered to me. And I say thank you to that person. What was that thing? There were two children playing together, white, one male, one female, and they embraced themselves, and showed love to one another. But when it was the turn of the black children, one was hitting the other, hitting the other, fighting the other. You see, and somebody now say, according to that person, look, this is how our African society is. And I said, no. It's a kind of mirror that we adults in different environment, like what Prof said. The environments also work about followership and leadership. They could see that in their parents. They could see that in their uncles and aunts. But here, they see their own parents fighting. They see their own brothers fighting. And they grow up with that because children are very good to learn. It is time. The hope for the future is that we begin to get our youths and begin to mentor them, begin to train them about leadership, about how to act, not copying people in the National Assembly. I'm sorry to say that, not copying other politicians, because what are they going to offer? Okay. You see, we can see all this.
Prof, I don't know if you think it's a good time for us to talk about mentorship when the elections are just right ahead of us. And from what Dr. Kundaya said earlier, he doesn't see any movement of the young people. And you have been doing a yeoman's job, as you said, you know, mentoring them, getting them ready for leadership and all of that. But 2023 is a beckoning, and there is no stopping the time. So what are the options open to the people now? This mentoring thing, shouldn't it be something that the political parties will also have a system around?
Mr. Ayo, there will always be a 2023. It used to be 2019 and then 2015. You know, there's always going to be a pressure, but those things can happen simultaneously. You continue to mentor and prepare. Can you imagine if we had started in 2000 to deliberately develop leaders, young people that will succeed us? Mr. Ayo, Mr. Lero, today we would have had competent people that we can choose from.
Yeah.
So it's never too late to start. We can still start intentional, purposeful mentorship today. In the meantime, when 2023 comes around, again, let's do our best to choose leaders who are morally upright, to choose leaders who are emotionally strong, to choose leaders who have fairly good intellectual ability to understand and make quality decisions, to choose leaders that understand the social fabrics of this nation and has respect for different people, different groups, so that he or she can bring us together to function as a family.
Well,
and
Prof,
also must choose somebody who has the physical strength to handle the challenges. But simultaneously, we should be mentoring our future leaders.
Let me take the same risk Alero took with Dr. Kuan here. There are so many people who are already indicating interest in the process. So, do you see a glimmer of hope, as Dr. Kuan saw, in the people who have thrown their hats into the ring?
Quite frankly, there are quite a number of good candidates. And if Nigerians can use this yardstick, this template that I have given, moral uprightness, emotional stability, intellectual acuity, social intelligence, and physical vitality. If you use those 5 yardsticks, you will find that there are quite a few of the candidates that can really lead this nation. Unfortunately, my fear is, will the process produce them?
Yeah.
Number 2, will the people allow their conscience to lead them instead of their stomach? If the system will be fair and people will be allowed to express their view, then I would say there's hope for 2023. But if those two are not allowed, given full expression, then we're back to where we are.
Okay, we have a few comments coming in. This one is from Festus Akimboyewa, and he quotes, "Everything rises and falls on leadership." And he says, sadly, our leaders are imposed when they have little or no experience. That's why we're not making good progress. Those who want to lead must fully understand their responsibilities, duties, and obligations.
I'll say this again, it's like applying for a job. If you want to get a job,
exactly,
you need to understand what the job description is. Well, we could go on and on this conversation, but you know, it's always exciting to have you gentlemen talk to us this morning. Professor Vincent Anibogo is Director General, International Institute of National Transformation, joined us from Abuja studio. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts this morning, as well as Dr. John Ekundayo, a leadership development consultant and organizational strategist. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Intelero.
Well, back after now for another conversation. Please stay with us.